Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237. Coming at you with another review, and it's kind of a random one. I guess technically it is a horror film. I guess it's more so adventure and epic, like epic adventure, but still a horror film. Absolute classic. I had never seen this version before. I've seen both remakes, but I've never seen the original, and that is King Kong, 1933. Now, this is a pre-code film, which means sort of like Dracula, Frankenstein. There was no code for what they could and could not put in films at that time. So, some parts are really violent for 1933. But, I don't even really think I need to go into the plot. I mean, um, produced and directed by Marion C. Cooper, story by Cooper and Edgar Wallace, and stars Fay Wray, Robert Armstrong, Bruce Cabot. And I don't think I need to go into the plot. Everyone, even if you haven't seen King Kong, you know the plot to this. Film crew, they go out trying to find this island, Skull Island. They get there, the natives are not happy with them. They get back on the ship. Well, they're making a movie all in the process. You have this sort of newcomer actress and this one actor who's sort of done adventure films before, and a very greedy director. Then the actress, they're making like a Beauty and Beast kind of movie. The natives get on the ship, kidnap the actress, put her behind this giant wall on their island, and then Kong appears, takes her, and it becomes a real-life Beauty and Beast story. Now, this was the first time I ever seen King Kong all the way through. I mean, anytime people talk about the 30s or a classic film or classic horror films or special effects, King Kong comes up, and for a damn good reason. This was a huge, huge, huge film when it came out. I mean, it wasn't just a horror film. It was action, it was adventure, it was romance. It had everything. And the special effects were absolutely groundbreaking. They had, the big 40-something foot head and hands of the ape. It had stop motion, it had superimposing and green screen. It really did look like, they were on this adventure. I think a lot of people confuse that it's Universal or Paramount. This is actually RKO, which I think did other films like White Zombie, and I want to say they did The Old Dark House. That could be Universal. In fact, I think that was Universal because I think that was part of Karloff's contract. But, I'm trying to find exactly who did the special effects. Stop motion, matte paintings, which of course was also being used in Dracula and Frankenstein, rear projection, and miniatures. And this was all years before it even became popular. And it was all done by okay, I thought it might have been Ray Harryhausen. I didn't know if his films went back that far. Why can't The stop motion was done by Willis O'Brien and his assistant animator Buzz Gibson, and his Ray Harryhausen, who didn't work on this, but he worked with him in subsequent films. Yeah, you can tell watching this that this would heavily influence, Clash of the Titans, of Argonauts, all those Harryhausen films. Peter Jackson. This is Peter Jackson's favorite film. Of course, Peter Jackson would go on to do a remake in 2005, which I'm not the biggest fan of. This is a huge staple in Hollywood. And it's kind of hard to talk about a movie like this. I mean, it's kind of like doing a review for Jaws or The Exorcist. I mean, what more can be said? For me, the shining thing is the special effects. I'm a huge sucker for stop motion, no matter what it is, whether it's this. I don't own any Harryhausen films, but I love the look of them. Or Tim Burton, or even lower budget horror films like Basket Case. I love stop motion. I'm a huge sucker for it. Tool music videos. I love stop motion. I love the look of this film. I think the stop motion Kong in this, it looks better than Peter Jackson's CGI 2005. That's just my opinion. I liked Peter Jackson's when I first saw it in 2005 when I was like 14. But the King Kong I grew up with was actually the Dino De Laurentiis 1976 remake with Jessica Lange and Jeff Bridges. And actually with Rick Baker in the Kong suit, Rick Baker himself. That's the one I watched as a kid. I think I first saw that when I was 7 or 8. Watched the hell out of it for a couple years. I loved King Kong. I wanted to see this one, but that was the one my parents rented me. And in fact, when I went to go buy this, there is a copy that you can get that's like a bright orange kind of modern pop art looking kind of cover. I thought it was this one. I flipped it over to look at the special features, and I saw Jack Black and Adrian Brody. I was like, ugh. It's like, no. I don't own the Peter Jackson one. I don't want to own the Peter Jackson one. Peter Jackson did a good job at, he stayed loyal to the source material and making it newer. He did do that. There's just certain aspects I don't like about it. Like, this movie is 104 minutes, and it feels the perfect pacing and the perfect length. Peter Jackson's, I think, goes on way too long. A lot of the acting and character relationships didn't really care for. The CGI, orgasm all over the screen wasn't into. I'm much more into the stop motion stuff. The matte paintings. And even if you do take the Peter Jackson film and the 76 remake, there really is nothing that you haven't seen if you're coming to this one last. So even though I had seen technically everything that's in this film, I thought it was done better in this one. And also, I want to see who did the actual Big Kong live action. Filmed over an 8-month period. some people even believed that it was a guy in a suit, but no. Which, I mean, I think that's a testament to how good the stop motion animation is. I mean, the fight scenes with the T Rex or the pterodactyl or the snake thing in his lair. I liked all the fight scenes. It looked like a CGI mishmash, almost like a Marvel film in the newer one. But did he also do like the big, like the giant Kong, like where the actors had to sit in his mouth and shit? Because I like the look of that one too. Well, or I also like the part where after they kill the Stegosaurus, we see the characters of the actor and the director when they're looking for, we see Jack, the director, looking for Anne. They kill the Stegosaurus and they're kind of, it's like green screened or like back projected or whatever it is. And for 33, all the effects look great in this. I will say this movie probably has the most screaming I've ever heard in a film from back then. Fay Wray is screaming the entire time. I would say not all the acting is great. It's not really top-notch acting, but it's such a fun movie, and it does feel like it's more of a scope film or like an epic adventure film, not really a character study or like an acting piece, so it's easy to forgive. I was blown away by just how good the special effects looked. Because being a huge fan of stop motion, like before this, some of the oldest stop motion I've seen, other than clips of Harryhausen films, would have been like a Basket Case, which is 1982, very cheap. I was wondering what this would have looked like, and I was astounded. I love the look of Kong. I love the look of the fight scenes with the other dinosaurs. The even when the human actors, the miniatures are stop motion, I like the look of that. It's really hard to talk about a film that's so notorious like this, because what else can I say? I mean, that's why I haven't reviewed Jaws or The Exorcist or I reviewed The Shining, Chainsaw Massacre, and Psycho because I'm passionate about those films. But yeah, it's kind of hard to talk about really, really super influential films like this. It's easy to see the influence of this because this movie does have everything. Great cinematography, even in direction, even outside of the special effects, just regular shots. Like it can be very a cinematic, like you see the ship coming out of the fog, or some of the scenes like when we're on the ship, but we see in the background the natives have like their ceremony going on, and there's a lot of things going on the screen, background and foreground. It looks great. Great cinematography, great direction, great use of music. I mean, it does have this sort of epic adventure kind of score, but then there's also very silly parts in the score. Like there's a part where Kong is holding Anne, and I think he's trying to tickle her or something. Because every time he takes his finger and goes like that, there's like a weird kind of like a weird little cue for the music, like a silly little bass line or something. just, and this was 33, so like they had just figured out how to get music on in talkies in general. That now they're, this seems like a perfectly scored film. So I mean, this to me is like what people thought of Avatar back in 2009, which I'm also not the biggest fan of. That's exactly what this was back in 33. And the reactions people had to Avatar in 2009 is what I had watching this in 2020. Like, this to me is a big epic adventure film, a special effects film. Avatar, Peter Jackson's King Kong, didn't really surprise me. Inception melted my brain. It was a great movie, but that's a different kind of adventure. But yeah, this was kind of like my Avatar. And this really must have blown people's minds back in 33. Seeing moving dinosaurs, humans and dinosaurs on the same screen interacting with each other. And again, I love the shot of Kong climbing up the Empire State Building. That is as iconic as any scene can get. But yeah, I didn't really go into the plot because I think everyone knows the story to King Kong. But I really enjoyed this movie. I had a lot of fun with it. This is my kind of adventure film. I guess technically it still is horror. I mean, it's a film crew ending up on this island that no one's really discovered. It's still just the natives. The woman gets captured, sacrificed, I guess, to this giant ape called Kong, who's king of the jungle. And they have to go after her, and they fight, Stegosaurus, Brontosaurus, T-Rex, which I know this was 60 years before Jurassic Park. They didn't know the difference between herbivore and carnivore, or they just didn't give a shit. And I guess I didn't watch the special features. I found this for $5. This is a great 2-disc collection. But I've heard that one of the features on here has the lost scene of because if you've seen the Peter Jackson film, you know that when the walkway gets fucked with by Kong, they fall down into that gorge, and there's the giant insects. Well, I guess that was filmed, but a lot of it was damaged or lost, and it's kind of been either recreated or restored. Not in the original film, but it is on the features. So I wish I'd watched that before this review, but I didn't. But, because that would have been more stop motion fun for me. But yeah, if you're a huge fan, or if you love stuff like Ray Harryhausen films, Jason and the Argonauts, Clash of the Titans, Wrath of the Titans, all that stuff, this is where it all stems from. It's like being a fan of 80s monsters like American Werewolf in London, The Howling, Fright Night, Lost Boys, all that stuff. But then going back and looking at the Jack Pierce monsters of the 30s, John Carpenter's The Thing, got to go all the way back to the 30s. This is the original adventure film, the original epic film. And my favorite King Kong film. I grew up with the 76 remake. I want to get it on DVD just to see it again because it's been years since I've seen it. Loved it as a kid. Still need to see Skull Island because I haven't seen Skull Island yet. I've heard that one's actually pretty good. But this is the one I think I'll always appreciate the most. Because again, the 30s is my favorite era of film and horror, but yeah, I loved this version. I had a lot of fun and I really enjoyed it. But anyway, thank you for watching.